Thank you. And another episode here at AutoTech Effect 2020 here at NADA. I'm joined again by Aleem Lakhani, the Executive Vice President of AmTrust North America, Specialty Risk Division. Focuses on innovation and strategy within the warranty market. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate the invitation.
Aleem, you've always been someone that I've turned to ask questions about innovation and direction in terms of warranty management, in terms of technology. Give me some reflection over the last 12 months. Have you seen any new innovations and directions that are starting to emerge inside the automotive warranty industry?
Thank you very much for that question. And indeed, I have been keeping tabs of how our industry has been evolving of late and do see some significant improvements or enhancements. First is increasing attention in the automotive industry related to the customer journey, specifically with respect to online engagement. That is both from the pre-purchase, purchase, and the aftermarket, recognizing that in each of these areas, whereas the traditional focus has been with respect to the procurement of an automotive vehicle, how does that experience translate in terms of behavior with respect to vehicle services contract engagement strategies? What can we do to improve? How can we engage? And then, more importantly, how can we continue to deliver value? Because the insurance industry, or generally in the industry, the excellence is demonstrated when we actually are called upon to perform our duties and fulfillment of our objectives. But consumers are asking for increasing value throughout the entire life cycle, not just when they need us. And so if the average engagement is often between 14 to 18 months, what do you do for value during those periods prior to and after?
Sure.
Consumers are only going to remain sticky to a brand and continue to be loyal to providing or engaging with these solutions only if they see that they're deriving value. So how are we going to undertake to do that? Secondly, the importance of data, because data drives that experience itself.
Sure.
How do we take data, personalized data, and now start developing more personalized experiences so that we can ensure that there is genuine personalized value? And meaningful value is derived also from being able to interpret the data and then engage with them. So not only just from an operational perspective, so from the efficiencies and the efficacy we can have with respect to the data, but how do we create essentially opportunities to engage the consumer so that they can see tangible rewards that come from behavioral changes? So, we hear about behavioral modification with respect to the use of telematics for purposes of auto insurance, but that's in general liability. How about the fact that we take the experiences that a consumer has with their vehicle and be able to change by engaging them so that they can drive their vehicle in a particular manner that has other tangible rewards, and then demonstrating those rewards through initiatives like micro rewards. So how do we bring micro rewards? Micro rewards has been seen to impact loss ratios between 6 to 10% from case studies that I've seen in Africa, for example. South Africa, Vitality being one that's done it in the health insurance, has done it as well and tested it in the automotive sector and seen that much of a difference. And so consumers are wanting for something tangible, personalized. So that's another area. And then overall, the question really is about how the sensory environment and will impact overall the enhanced value to all the stakeholders. The consumer, in terms of better knowledge about their vehicle and the safety and security and control that brings, but then for all the stakeholders like carriers, like third-party administrators, who can leverage that particular data to now start engaging in the delivery of solutions, products and services that are actually meaningful to them. So that has been another area, more consideration around that data, the need for data aggregators and intermediaries, because it's not possible otherwise. What are the salient data points that need to be captured so that we can do something meaningful? Otherwise, it's like drinking from a fire hose. What are we actually going to focus in on? And then trying to create value propositions that are advantageous to all the stakeholders. So I'm seeing growth in this area tremendously. And, we certainly see the examples of like Carvana and others that are talking about an exclusively digital experience. That hasn't proliferated everywhere.
No.
Consumers continue to demonstrate that they have a preponderance to examine and go through the buying decision process digitally prior to, but they are narrowing increasingly their scope of activities, so they see less dealers. They limit the number of vehicles that they're going to test drive because they're walking in there with their consideration set highly narrowed through the digital experience.
True.
So the execution has to be perfect.
Yes.
And then what value has to be done after that. So I'm seeing more activities around things like that, not around the fact that we have to have a digital experience that goes end to end with everything bought online in terms of the entire experience.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things that we've heard through some of the other speakers that have been on our panel the last couple of days, they're talking about shopping versus buying and creating intelligent shopping experiences, getting to a different road to the sale. So a process that is augmented and hybrid to what it used to be, which was you'd see 4 dealerships, drive 5 cars, pick the one with the best price or the best experience with the salesperson. I think you couldn't be more right about the considerations are made prior to coming in. And, as we focus on warranty as kind of a huge aspect to not only income development for dealerships, but also in the warranty community, we're looking at ways to differentiate ourselves other than price, other than coverage, because for the most part it's commoditized in a lot of ways. So digitizing the warranty industry has been something we've talked about in other areas. You mentioned something that was very, very pronounced is, the ability to connect to the asset. We do it in the other areas of warranty, whether it's connected home warranty, we do it in cell phones and tablets. Asurion has made an industry out of it. You do, proliferating that. When we talk about connected warranty assets, we've seen commercial equipment do it, Bobcat, Case, and John Deere. In the sense of the auto space, you mentioned UBI. For the audience, could you explain what UBI is and how it's being used for the traditional insurance, and how might the warranty industry use that same approach?
Excellent question. So UBI is an acronym for use-based insurance.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that essentially an end user or policyholder pays for what they use or how they employ that asset that's protected?
Okay.
So highly personalized around that, as opposed to either a one-size-fits-all or another parameter that is based on an aggregation or segmentation, but not personalized. Consumers are saying, if I employ a vehicle in this manner, this fashion, and in these circumstances, and why am I not paying for my personalized risk as opposed to a one-size-fits-all? So that's the premise for UBI. What is very interesting to see is that UBI, so it leverages telematics from the vehicle to be able to now customize and deliver the right data points so that we can personalize around that use-based insurance model. The automotive industry experience between the United States and the rest of the world are very different.
Sure.
The use-based model in the United States moved from a dongle that was inserted into the OBD ports to be able to extract information to deliver that high degree of personalization. Cost and also just reliability issues impeded that. And whereas in the rest of the world, particularly the European markets, they've still remained strong and true to the dongle adoption. So now if we look at the United States model itself, is consumers are telling us they don't want a dongle. They want the ease of use of a smartphone device.
Sure.
So that now means that the sensory data that's available from the vehicle has to be made available.
Sure.
Because the smart device has great capabilities, but it has inherent limitations.
Right.
So the true, it can certainly tell you about the way the vehicle is performing as it relates to the driver behavior and where they're driving, braking hard and speeding and characteristics like that. all appropriate for purposes of automotive insurance, but not appropriate for vehicle service contracts.
Sure.
So we need the data from within the vehicle. And so I think where the opportunity lies is to be able to partner with the OEMs or data intermediaries that can gather that information and layer it on to that smartphone or other digital interface you have with that consumer in that vehicle to now deliver the value proposition. So the opportunity that I see happening here is that telematics will start being applied to the VSC world, which it doesn't have a foothold yet. And secondly, it will leverage existing available data from OEM and intermediaries and not use external hardware to be inserted in there. The math doesn't make sense. The customer experience doesn't make sense. And I think given the fact that this data is available in richer, capable formats with good partnerships, those are the ones that are going to win, in my opinion.
We couldn't agree more. The research we've done is that the future is that the OBD port will be locked down by the OEMs.
Yes.
In 3 conversations, I heard the OEM say, "We're going to put the OBD port in the door jamb, so you can't drive your car with an OBD dongle in your door jamb." So I think that's absolutely prolific of a statement. The other thing is that as a warranty company or as an underwriter, we have always had one metric of earnings, which is time, because we truly don't know anything beyond time that's finite.
Yeah.
So could you explain what maybe a connected vehicle asset would be able to do to a earnings block on a warranty portfolio that had the ability to advance earnings, knowing that you might drive 25,000 miles a year, I drive 10,000 miles a year, we both bought 7-year, 100,000-mile plans.
Yes.
What would that what would that data do financially for a warranty block?
Absolutely. A brilliant question and the right question, in my opinion. We have, for those policyholders that don't make any claims, we have no knowledge.
Sure.
So we default to the time,
right,
not the usage. The experience that we are going to have now is we can actually determine definitively when a policy will expire. So we can appropriately earn on that basis. So instead of it being a linear model over 5 years or whatever that term may be, we can actually earn proportionate to the use of the contract.
Right.
So that is phenomenal. So that means increased earned premium, and consequently your loss ratios, if all things are equal, should be lower.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So mathematically, that's the beautiful equation, in my opinion. And the second thing that I think it also brings is, in addition to that, is by virtue of understanding what the proportionate use of a service contract or vehicle service contract is, how do we engage with the consumer to develop a better relationship? If a consumer is employing their vehicle more aggressively, well, that might be very good from an earnings pattern, potentially, if there's no claims associated with that. Or it might give us a better profile to better calibrate around the particular risk associated with portfolios that can be much more segmented now, not on vehicle make and model, but now based on utility coupled with that.
Sure.
So we can do all the logistics on an operational level to deliver our services much better. But what I think happens is that for that consumer that is employing their vehicle much more than they would have than the average, as an example, we can now start offering other augmented services into this equation so that we can either improve the satisfaction with the use of that, so preventative maintenance, prescriptive care, maintenance models, things like that. But I think the other is, in those cases in which they might expire their contract sooner than otherwise, that might not have perceived the value now as a result of that. How do we engage with them to now deliver other kinds of value-added services in that equation so that now we have an actual understanding about that individual's driving behavior and the vehicle performance as a result
Sure.
of it, how can we write risks differently now for that individual in a renewal circumstance? Because that's the opportunity that we see. Cars are being retained for in excess of 11 years. They're rotating more than, I think, 2+ times.
Yep.
We have to deliver a value proposition related to that vehicle in addition to that end user. Because the opportunity that's missed, if we're attaching at 40%, let's just assume that's what I gather from the data, that means that at this moment in time, we have more than 130 million cars that are not warranted.
Mm.
If there are 130 million cars in the United States that are not warranted, it's because we haven't done enough to have the continuity of the relationship, not just with the policyholder, but now with the end user. And so that's where I think the unique opportunity is, that when you get into a connected car, not only do we affect the metrics associated with the insurance and the loss ratios and earnings related to that, but now we can have a relationship over the 11.5 years
Right.
by virtue of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is going to be very transformative.
So predictive actions, proactive engagement with customers, and not just the customer, like you said, it's the vehicle. So if the vehicle changes hands, we're dealing with customer A, customer B, and C effectively if it's 2.5 times, and at different at different times of that vehicle's life cycle, you have different socioeconomic needs.
Yes.
You have different maintenance needs.
Yes.
Different warranty experiences that could potentially be there. So.
Exactly. Just to add one more element of color to it is, when auto insurance determines what their insurance needs are, they use zip as a major indicator, as an example.
Zip code.
Zip code, yes.
Yeah.
So we can, by virtue of telematics now and sensory information, even if that consumer has not registered per se, but if you're working with the OEM, maybe you have that information because of the accessibility of other kinds of information. But what you do know is where the highest point is, or the most frequent point of it being stationary, as an example. So you can surmise locality, and now you can, with that locality, make all of those interpretations in terms of data about market segmentation, so that you can now deliver a VSC predicated on information like that.
That's right.
So data can be pivoted into many different ways. That's one of the ways in which we could use that data, even if they're not officially registered per se.
Right. The connected warranty world and connected maintenance world in fleet management and even in heavy equipment. As I use this as an example, Bobcat runs a promotion for contractors that if they lease a Bobcat skid steer vehicle, it comes with a dongle, but it's reading the maintenance history, the usage, the wear and tear on that particular unit. And what they were able to do is build the ability to be more proactive in the event of a predicted failure, predicted maintenance event. They could supply replacement units so that the contractor continue to monetize that device.
Yes.
When we start thinking about a connected vehicle ecosystem, where not only would warranty be such a valuable tool for so many people, and different types of warranty, it would require warranty providers to shift in their product approach, but also in how they would market at that given time of the asset or the vehicle life cycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the question becomes, not from a carrier perspective, but the third-party administration world.
Sure.
Do they have the capability to do that? How do you add value to this evolution in expectations and opportunities? The carrier can deliver its product and services, but it's the innovative third-party administrator that's recognizing this opportunity and can apply both technology, but also just brilliant customer service to come in there and be able to say, how do I deliver a broader value proposition? And I fundamentally believe that the warranty world has to become more seamless into the entire experience.
True.
And that's when innovation, I think, will hit its peak for us.
Sure.
Because when we will be able to work with an OEM and other product manufacturers, acquiring that data, because the objective is to derive and deliver excellence so that the loyalty factor, because the abdication from the brand is extremely costly, and the acquisition cost or reacquisition cost can be very significant.
Sure.
They have to ensure that this end-to-end experience, of which warranty is one of the most vital parts of it, has to be seamless into the equation. TPAs that have the skills, both intellectually and I think technically, are the ones that are going to be the ones that make it through. I just don't see how the traditional warranty, extended warranty provider can survive this transformation that's happening.
You know, we've talked a lot about connected vehicle and user-based insurance or usage-based insurance. You know, I know that the first perception would be, you know, two-party consent around data. Could you explain for the audience what user-based insurance, UBI, has done to kind of protect the critical information related to insurance and how we might not need as much personal information for the warranty space?
Absolutely. There is, with connected devices generally and embedded sensors, growing concerns about both data privacy and cybersecurity.
Sure.
So you're addressing specifically data privacy.
Yes.
I think consumers are extremely concerned about adopting any product or service that creates shared knowledge around themselves. And given AI technology, even non-personal data has an ability to be amassed to create a relatively good proximate indicator of what that is. So I do believe greater awareness about consumers, by consumers about what is the intent to be used, securing their consent, and the terms and conditions associated with how we intend to employ this data is very critical. Where I think consumers find difficulty is the fact that the perceived trust that they had was violated.
Sure.
We've seen that in some very big cases. The assumption was my data is not being used for any other purpose. It isn't being sold. I think that's probably the most critical thing. So I think entities that endeavor to use the data, consumers are willing to share their data if they get value, even pay for that.
Sure.
The key is that the entities that are holding it take that responsibility and the obligation to protect that data. And that includes adopting methodologies of high encryption and the use of the way the encryption of that data occurs from the source all the way to the way it's stored, because there's many points of vulnerability in that. And I think as consumers, that's the expectation from anyone that's going to win their trust over, that they're doing that. And if you're willing to consent both parties about that and retain the integrity of that, and even be able to share ultimately information about how that data is being managed and what you did with it, there's increasing trust that will be developed around that. Ultimately, I think the end game will be one where consumers own their own data.
Yeah.
And how they can employ that data for purposes of deriving increasing value. So whereas the OEM may have ownership of that data by virtue of it being within their vehicle, the fact that you can, in your agreements over time, ensure that that consumer has portability with that data, it'll help everybody in the equation and inspire increasing confidence about how they intend to monetize personally their data, as well as how you intend to monetize that data. So that's what I see as being very transformative. I think new technologies that are going to come along, like blockchain, are going to further enhance not only the security, but it's also going to give them visibility around the privacy use of their data. And I think that's going to be another inspiration to consumers being increasingly willing to share their information.
And we're seeing that, you know, with the advent of Amazon and these e-commerce markets where, you know, you might have searched for a good or a service or a product, and then downstream there's other correlative products that they're going to present to you in a non-obtruse fashion that you know, that isn't really going beyond the scope, but at the same time it's being done intelligently. So that makes sense with the insurance products or warranty products for that matter. So we want to thank you again for contributing to a great discussion on the future of warranty. If anyone has any questions of engaging your background, we encourage them to reach out to Amtrust Specialty Risk and ask for Aleem. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Axiom, for this great event.